this video, we will talk about proofreading your citations for your research papers, and specifically, the dangers of depending on citation generators. First, let's review what information we need to properly cite a source. Regardless of the type of source, we will always need the author and the title of the source. Regardless of the format of the source, whether it's print or electronic, for a book, we will always need to know the publisher of the book, like McGraw-Hill, the place of publication, like New York, and the year of publication. If we have a journal article, we will always need to know the journal title, the volume and the issue of the journal, the date the journal was published, and the page numbers of our particular article in the journal. If a source is electronic, regardless of whether it is a book or an article, we will need everything you needed for books and articles, plus either the URL or the DOI where you accessed the book or article online. And for some citation styles, you will need the last updated date of the book or article and the date you accessed the book or article. So let's look at some specific sources we might use for a research paper and how you must exercise caution when using a citation generator. Suppose in the writing of our paper, we used this source and we used this source. To cite these two sources, the first thing that most students do is to go to a citation generator, such as the cite link on Google Scholar or the citation button in a database. When you click on the link for a citation generator, you are usually offered the opportunity to choose the citation style that you want to use, and then you are provided with the citation. Many students copy and paste these citations into their bibliography and consider themselves done. For the purpose of this exercise, for each source that we are citing, I will copy the APA and the Chicago style because I would like to illustrate some differences between styles that you need to be aware of. But I'm going to copy these citations from this citation generator by Google Scholar, and I'm going to put them into this PowerPoint presentation so that you can easily see them and we can easily proofread them. So this is the citation for the first source. And now for the second source, I will also click the Cite button in Google Scholar and copy the APA and Chicago citations provided. And here are the citations in APA and Chicago format copied into our PowerPoint so that we can use them. We will start with the citation for the first source because it's a little easier. The first complication in understanding how to proofread the citations that we receive from a citation generator is that we must understand what exactly it is that we are citing. For this source, understanding what we're citing is relatively easy. We see, for example, that we have a volume and issue number and page numbers. And whenever we see a volume and issue, that is usually an indication that we're working with a journal article. But for this source, understanding what we're citing is a little more difficult. Many people will assume that this is just another article, but there are indications it is in fact not an article. The primary one is Chapter 2. Chapters are in books. Also, when we look at this page, we see no indication of the title of a journal or which issue or volume number this source might come from. So that indicates to us that we're not working with an article. That combined with the Chapter 2 indicates we're working with a book. Returning to our summary of the information that you must find, since we now understand that we're working with a book, we know that we need to know the publisher, place of publication, and year of publication. So we have to find those someplace in the source. But the fact that this is a chapter by authors in a book and not the entire book itself is a complication. We need to know the chapter authors and the editor of this book and any translators that might have existed for this book. So returning to our source, we see that the Chapter 2 authors are listed right here. And if we go to the cover page of the book, we see that the book does in fact have an editor who is different from the authors of our chapter. And if we scroll further down, we can find the place of publication for the book and the publisher of the book. So now we know all the information that we need to cite these sources. Let's proofread the citations that the citation generator gave us. Starting with the first source, our journal article, the first thing I do to proofread it is to make sure that all the elements that I expect are in the citation. So since I know this is a journal article, I expect to find the author of the article, the title of the article, the title of the journal volume, the journal issue, the date of publication of this issue, and the page numbers of the article. So all of those elements are present, but I found this article online. So since this is an electronic version of the article, I see the first mistake that my citation generator made. There is no DOI or URL included in this citation. I have to include the URL or the DOI since I read this online. That is a missing element that I must fix. The next thing that I check when proofreading the citation given to me by a citation generator is I make sure that all the elements are in the correct order for the citation style and that the punctuation is correct. That is usually something I can count on citation generators to do correctly. And in this case, they have. There are some tricky details that I always check from citation generators about the format. For example, I know that Chicago prefers for the author's last name and the author's first name to be entirely written out. Whereas I also know that for APA, the author's last name is written out and the first name is always an initial. So I always check to make sure that in APA, I have only the initial, and in Chicago, I have the full name if it was provided anywhere in the article. The next thing I check when checking the citation provided by a citation generator is capitalization. Capitalization is almost always incorrect from citation generators. For example, I know that APA capitalizes the first word in a title and the first word in a subtitle. The first word in the title is capitalized and the rest are lowercase as they should be, but this first word in the subtitle is not capitalized, and it should be. Same for the title of the journal, but this is correct. The first word should be capitalized, and the second two should not. Chicago, on the other hand, capitalizes every major word in the title of both the article and the journal title. So, contaminants, marine, environment, because it is the first word of the subtitle, and review should all be capitalized here. In the title of the journal, marine should be capitalized, but so should pollution and bulletin. So the citation generator has provided me incorrect information in that regard also. So what would I need to do to correct this citation? Here is the citation as it was provided to me from Google Scholar. Here is the correct citation. In this case, I have corrected the capitalization of the subtitle, and I have added the DOI of the article since I found it online. In the case of Chicago, I've had to capitalize the main words in the title and the subtitle of the article, in the title of the journal, and I've had to add the DOI since I found this online. Next, let's look at the chapter in a book. As before, the first thing I do is look to make sure that all the elements are present. For a chapter of a book, I expect to see the authors of the chapter, the title of the chapter. I expect to see the author or editor of the book, which I do not see, and the title of the book. I expect to see page numbers of the chapter. I do have a page number here, but the entire chapter was not on one page, so I know that's incorrect. I expect to see the publisher of the book. I don't see that. I expect to see the place of publication. I do not see that. Finally, I expect to see the date of publication, which I do have. So many of the elements of this citation are missing. The next thing I would normally check when citing this source would be to make sure that all the elements of the citation were in the correct order and had the correct punctuation. Because I'm missing so many elements of the citation, it's impossible for me to do that now. I can go ahead and check the format and capitalization of the elements that are here. And once again, I see that Chicago has written out the full author's first name, whereas APA has included only the initials. That's correct. I can also check the capitalization of the titles. And again, I see the same errors. So I know I have some major corrections to do with this citation. Finally, since this book is, again, something that I found online and not in print, I need either the DOI or the URL of the book. Again, we see this is the citation from Google Scholar, and this is the correct citation. Here, we still have, for APA style, the authors and the date of publication, the chapter title, but we have properly capitalized it, capitalizing the first word of the subtitle. Now we need to give credit to the editor of the book. So we say in other words, in the book by MS Bank, editor. Then we have the title of the book, properly capitalized. We have the proper page numbers. And then we have the place of publication and the publisher. For Chicago, I have to do major correction again. For a chapter in a book, Chicago includes the author's first and then the date of publication of the book, the chapter title in quotation marks and capitalized with every major word in the title being capitalized. Chicago also says that this chapter is in this book title, properly capitalized. And then they write out the word edited by and include the editor. Then they include the page numbers, the place of publication, and the publisher. Finally, for both citation styles, I must add the URL where I found the book since I found it online. And now I have a correct citation. So, to summarize, when proofreading a citation from a citation generator, make sure, first of all, that you understand what type of source you have. That will allow you to make sure that the citation generator provided all of the elements of that type of source. Don't forget things like editors, translators, and don't forget the DOI or the URL if you found the source online. Even though citation generators usually put the elements of the citation in the proper order, be sure to check that and be sure to check the punctuation. Finally, be sure to check the capitalization, especially of things like the title of the article and the title of the journal or the book. Citation generators almost never do these correctly, and that is usually a dead giveaway that you haven't properly proofread your citation.